Alright, Lesson 3, Roof Construction. Critical Task 0523611144. Introduction. The roof main purpose is to keep out the rain, cold, heat, and it must be strong enough to withstand high winds to slope the shed water and area with a heavy stone. It must be constructed more rigidly to bear extra weight. Part A, roof type. The department familiarized the carpenter most common type of the roof construct the roofs for the theater of operation construction and shows the site building, the climate, the estimated length of the time of the building used, and the material time and the skill required. A gable roof with a two-roof slope with the meet with the center and the performing a gable is the most common the roof because of the simple economical must be used with any type of the structure. Refer to Figure 31 on page 32. Lean to shed roof. The roof is used with a hasty temporary construction. The need of it is where sheds addition of the building of the erective. The patch of the roof is one direction only. The roof is held with the walls and posts of the four side with the other wall. One wall of the post on one side higher than the other opposite side roof. 3-1 shows the gable roof. 3-2 shows the lean or to the shed roof. Hip roof. The roof with the four side slopes running upward toward the center of the building of the center ridge of the peak of the rafters corners diagonally from the bottom edge to meet the center of the ridge. Often of these rafters are framed into the refer to Figure 3-3. Valley roof. The roof, the form of the true intersection, the hip of the or gable roof. The roofs meet the valley of each of the roofs slants in different direction. The roof itself, the move is sensitive, complicated, and requires too much time in the manner. Figure 3-3 shows the hip roof. The 3-4 shows the valley roof. Part B, framing members. Joists, rafters, truss, purlins, braces are considered the main framing member of the roof system. The joist ceiling joists are from the framework of the ceiling of the roof. They're usually lighter than the floor joists, but large enough to remain rigid. Ceiling joists are usually installed with 16 to 24 inches on center of the first ceiling of the joist and placed on the outside edge of the top plate. The second joist is placed at the 16 inches of the center line of the outside edge of the first joint. The remaining joists are placed 16 inches for the center line, continuing across the building. The extra joists are needed, maybe placed without after spacing the prime joist. Joists are laid beside the rafter of the plate over the cut in the same pitch as the rafter flush at the top rafter feet figure 3-5, but the center joist is nailed to the bottom of the top plate through these rafter feet figure 3-6. 3-5 shows the ceiling joist cut flush with the top of the rafter. Okay, and also figure 3-6 nailing ceiling joist. You have your double plates, the nailing of the joist and the rafters, ceiling joist, the total nail of the ceiling joist to the walls of the plates. There are 3-6 rafters. Rafters make up the main framework of all the roofs. They include the members of the space for 16 to 40 inches apart. They are varying sizes depending on the length of the spacing. The top of the incline, the rafters for fastened to the ridge or another rafter, depending on the type of the roof. The rafter rests on the top wall plate. The rafters are nailed to the plate with not framed to it. They are some of the cut and to fit the plate with while hastily constructing the merely laid on top of the plate and nailed in place. The most is any short distance beyond the wall to form the leaves to protect the side of the building. Sometimes the metal anchor is used to connect to the joints and the rafters. The top plate of the metal, figure 3-7, the metal anchors are permitted rapid insulation of the joints and rafters, eliminating the need for the nailing them. The metal anchors are fastened with 1 1/4 inch nails. Or figure 3-7 shows an applied joist and 3-7 applied to the rafter. Type example, the most common type of the rafters are shown in figure 3-8. The 4 types of the rafters are using common hip, valley, and jack. Figure 3-8 shows from the top. We show the ridge, the valley jack rafter, the valley rafter ridge, hip rafter, plate overhang, common rafter, tails cut off of the bird's mouth, and plate at the joint at the corner, hip joint rafters, common rafters. Okay, common rafters. The framing members extend with the right angle of the plate with the line to the roof ridge. They are commonly called common rafters because of the common of all types of the roofs are used for the base for the laying out of the type of the rafters. Hip rafters. The roof members extend diagonally from the corner of the plate to the ridge. Valley rafter. The rafters extend with the plate with the ridge along with the lines of the two roof sections. Jack rafter. The common rafter. The 3 kinds of the jack rafter are the hip jack will extend with the plate with the hip raft, the valley jack extend with the ridge with the valley raft, cripple jack which is placed between the hip rafter and the valley rafter. The crip jack of the rafter is also part of the common rafter, but it's touched with neither the ridge over the roof nor the rafter plate. Rafter layout must be laid out and cut in the slope of the length of the overhang exactly right so that they will fit in when placed on the roof. Scale and measurement method. The carpenter shall determine the length of the rafter and the length of the lumber from which the rafter may be cut. The working from the roof of the plan with the earns the rafter length with the width of the building from the plan. With no plans available, the width of the building must be measured to determine the rafter length with line with 1/2 the distance between the outside plate and the amount of the rise per foot yet has been considered in building 20 foot wide, the half space between the 10 feet. The example of the riser per foot foot over the 8 inches to determine overall length of the rafter. Measure the steel carpenter square with the distance between 8 on the tongue and 12 on the blade. 8 is the rise and 12 is on the unit over the run. Distance is 14 and 5.5 inches. The representative of the length of the rafter within the total run is 1 foot with a rise of 8 inches. See figure 3.9 with the page 3.6 and 3.6. Since the run of the rafter is 10 feet, multiply the 10 by the length of the 1 foot. 10 by 14 and 5.5 inches of 144 inches and 2/12. The answer is 140 and 2/12 inches of the 12 foot 1/6 of the amount of the overhang. Normally 1 foot must be added in an overhang to be used to make the total length of the rafter 13 foot 1/6 and 1/6 of an inch. Use the 14 foot timber. 3.9 shows the steel carpenter square pattern rafter method. The length determines the timber to lay with the saw horse, the saw bench with the crown, with the bottom, with if any of it has any of the top side of the rafter. If possible, select the straight piece of the pattern of the rafter. The straight piece, if not available, have the crown toward the person laying on the rafter. Figure 310 illustrates the 5-step of the pattern rafter method. Hold the square with the tongue of the right hand, the blade with the left, and the heel with the away from the body. With the place the square of the near the upper end of the rafter is possible. Example: the figure 8 with the tongue and the 12 on the blade are placed along with the timbered edge to the top of the edge of the rafter, shown in step 1. With the make along with the top edge of the square will away with the plumb with the plumb cut to the right. Since the length of the rafter is now known to be 12 foot 1/6 of an inch, measure for the distance for the top of the plumb market on the timber that hold the square in the square same manner of the 8 inch for the tongue directly over the 12 foot 1/16 of an inch of the market along the tongue square of the give of the plumb cut of the seat. Step 2, and next measure for the perpendicular of the part length of the overhang along with the timber to make a plumb cut mark in the same way that keeping the square on the same of the edge of the lumber. This will be the tail cut of the rafter. Open the tail after the tail is made with the square across the timber. Or step 1 shows the tongue and the blade. Step 2 shows this. Step 3, step 4, and step 5 and 6. Level cut with the width with the seat of the width of the bench with the perpendicular plumb cut shown to step 4 with the youth try square with the square of the lines down on the side with the level of the plumb line cut lines. Now a rafter is to be cut in step 5. Step up, method the rafter length of the building to determine the step in off the successful step of the square follows. Step off the same number of the steps as feet with the run. For example, building a 20 foot 8 inches wide run of the rafter would be 4 inches over the 10 foot figure 11 to 3/8 of an inch. Illustrate the 4 step of the step off method. 4 inches of taken care of the same man with a full foot run, but this is within the square and the last step of the position may mark the rafters with a 4-inch mark with figure 311 in step 1. The square held with the same cut with before making along the tongue, the length of the line, the length of the rafter, the seat of the cut, hangover is made with the scribe above the shown figure 311 in step 2, 3, and 4. Or step 1, 2, and 3, and 4 show the step-off method of the cutting the rafters. When laying out the rafters, may a method be rechecked with work carefully. If the 2 rafters have been cut, they must be cut and put in place with the seat that them fit. The minor adjustments may be made with the time without serious damage with the waste of material. Table method 1. Using the frame square with the layout of the rafters with the building must be first made known. The slope of the building is 20 foot 8 inches wide, whereas the rafter to be 12 inches of foot of the run. The total run of the rafters is 10 foot 4 inches lift. So look for the first line with the figures 13-inch mark. We will achieve the number 1790-69. The total length of the inches of the rafter run with a 1 foot and 13 rise of 13 inches. The table 312 of the table method on the square. To find the length of the rafter with a total run 10 foot 4 inches, multiply 1769 inches by 10 and 3/4 inches divided in 12 inches to get the answer 12 feet and feet. The total number of the inches is 182.79 inches divided into 12 is equal to 15 foot 3 and 3/12 of a foot. Therefore 15 3 inches of the length of the line of the rafter. Table 2 method. The rafter table the back of the blade with the sum of the square. Figure 313 show the rise and the run and the pitch of the rafter. Some of the most common roof pitch of the figures are based on the length of the horizontal measurement of the building of the center outside of the run. Rafter table the outside edge of the back of the square, given the body and the tongue of the 12th of the inch of the made with the square with the represent the inches and feet. 12 marks made to represent the 12th inch of the 12th of the foot. The rafter table to be used in connection with the marks and the figures out with the edge of the square. You'll note at the left end of the table that there are figures represented with the run, rise, and pitch. Figure 313, table 2 method. The numbers are the rises in inches and 12-inch cutaway of the roof. Run. The first column of the figures are all 12. They may be even 12 inches or 12 feet, with the measurement representative of the running of the 12 inches. The rise of the second column figure representative of the various per foot 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 18. Appears the third column figure fractions representative of the various 16th, quarter, third, and fifth, 12, 1/2, 5/8, 3/4 an inch. Alright, figure 314 show the pitch of the rafter. On the table, the sum of the rafters are usually made from the trusses. The two rafters connect to the top of the U of the collar, type of the nail of both rafters. Before any type of the ties of the core, the nail of the rafters should be spread at the lower end of the equal to the width of the building. This is done by using a template or by measuring the distance between the seat cuts over the tape. Figure 315 shows the assembling a truss, the 2x4 rafter, the 2x4 brace, the 1x6 vertical brace, the 1x6 rafter tie. And then on the bottom you show the 2x4 filler block, 2x6 bottom cord, 2x4 splice plate, and 2x4 filler block cord. A 1x6 of the 2x4 cord nailed across the rafters at the sheave of the tie. Together the cord forms a truss. The two rafters hang the vertical member of the 1x6 in the nail of the rafter joint. Extend the cord midpoint, tying the rafter to the cord. Your collar beam. The tie or collar beam is beef. The tackle are usually 1x4, 1x6, or 1x8, or 2x4 fastened with the horizontally positioned pair of the rafters between the plate and the bridge of the roof at the top of the beam tends to keep the building from spreading. The most scope of the specification required the 5 feet apart with every third rafter, whichever the less the collar ties are nailed to the common rafters with the 4D nail with each end with the 1-inch tie with the 2-inch material. The U with the tie with the air nailed with the 3 and 6-inch 16 penny nail for the edge each end of the type of the bracing with a small roof with no ceiling joist or either at the building is not wide enough to require the truss, the lower collar beam that is scored with the better of the works. 2, 3, the support small roof of the covered and only narrow building which rafters are short with no need interior support bracing. A long span roof wood slag with the middle of the wood and strengthened in some way to support the long range rafters braced with other types of supports must be installed. 4. Rafter supports. In wide buildings, the joists from the cords must be placed within no support underneath the rafter and joists support one another. See figure 316. Knee brace and additional bracing is needed with the truss and see the place. Then place the additional bracing is needed. The knee brace to the core of the knee brace with a 45-degree angle with the wall stud with the easier erection. The knee braces may be omitted until the rafter truss is set in place. See figure 316. Shows the knee brace from the wall, the rafter, the splice, the carpenter square on the top of the vertical raising the rise and rafter, vertical brace, floor ground, trusses framed with a joint structure combined on straight member of the connected only with the intersection in such a way that if full loads are applied with the intersection stress in each of the member the direction and the length of the straight and the sound with the timber that should be used in the truss. Figure 317 show the various type of trusses used in the construction. The how and the fin trusses are most commonly used. The trusses are used the large span to give a wide obstruction floor space with the large buildings and shops or hangars. Sometimes small buildings are trussed with the same material. Some of the small trusses as the rafters give it the rough rigidity. This shows the top of the boweling truss, scissor truss, Pratt truss with monitoring, traverse howl pitch, tonally lattice truss, saw tooth truss, knee brace, Pratt truss, knee brace, traverse bent, howl truss, Pratt, camelback Pratt, modified, Pratt pitch, fink or French, Warren truss, and then another Warren truss kind of type. Placement. After all the rafters have been assembled, the truss then must be placed within the building and assemble the first rafter with the end of the section of the building at the center of the raised rafter. The truss is in position, hand and nail into place with the 16 penny weight nails. Temporary. The workbench is built with the works to stand on the while erecting truss. The trusses must be temporarily braced in the end section building until the ceiling is applied. The knee braces are not to be used after every rafter truss unless needed installed as follows. Alright, A and then B, flip it. It's set on one end of the wall bearing load, and then B is in both bearing walls, and then it's flipped upwards. Show the temporary bracing of the rafter assembly. The rafter assembly is a set of part 24 inches. Alright, marking the proper position of all truss assembly with the top plate mark shall show the exact position of the face with all the rafters, such as the soil, south and north. Rest end of the truss assembly peaking down the appropriate mark with the top plate with one end of the structure, figure 318A. Rest the other end of the truss on the corresponding mark with the top plate on the other side of the structure, figure 318B. Rotate the assembly into position using the pole or rope, figure 318C with the page 313. Line the up the secure with the rafter flush with the face with the marks. Raise and line the nail with the assemble the position nail temporary 1/16 of an inch brace across these assembly. Repeat the procedure with the other assembly that are brought into position, figure 318D. Check the rafter space for the peaks of the braces are nailed on. Some brace may be even the platform while raising the truss, but there are not enough room to permit rotation. Web members, the web members are truss divided into the triangles. Members indicate that heavy lines normally carry a tensile stress. Vertical is sometimes the top chords of these trusses slope slightly in one or two direction. Roof drains that does not change the type of the truss. The string number of the subdivision panel depending on the length of the span and the type of the construction. See terms. Terms should be understood before proceeding further with this lesson. Bottom chord, the member of the forms of the lower boundary of the truss. Or your bottom chord is the bottom part of the truss, and the diagonal web members of the diagonal from the cord and from the top chord to the bottom chord. Overhang is over the top of the side of the siding bearing member. Top chord, a member of the forms upper boundary of the truss. Chord member that forms either the top or the bottom of the chord. Member of the component with the members adjacent to the point of the joint of the truss, and can be one or more pieces of the structural material. Web member that lines up bottom of the top of the bottom of the chords joint. Any point with the truss and the two or more members meet, and sometimes called the panel point. 7th panel length, the distance between the two consecutive joints, center of either top of the bottom chords. Pitch, the ratio of the height of the truss with the span length. Height of the truss, the vertical distance of the mid-span with the joint of the center of the bridge of the pit truss, of the center line with the top chord, flat truss, center line with the bottom chord. 10 span length, the horizontal distance between the center of the two joints located at the extreme end of the truss. U with the large span of gauge, if wide unobstructed floor space for such large buildings such as shop hangar with the Howell and Fink trusses are most commonly used. Or this shows the Howell pitch, modified Fink, Fink, French Howell. Or your support trusses are supported with the bearing walls post with the other truss, the brace for the wall post and the knee brace for the U of the figure 321 of the brace intended to make the truss for the entire building fly wall, tying the wall to the roof. Or it shows the knee braces also supporting the and the raft, holding the rafter truss up so they can get nailed in. Layout. Use the following steps only on the truss. Build the truss over the workbench, place with the level spot with the ground, obtain the measurement of the material with the blueprints, lay the piece for the correct position with the T-form truss, nail them together temporarily, lay the location with all the holes and bore the holes on the side of the cull with the blueprint, dismantle the truss and withdraw the nails from them after the holes have been bored. 321-22 shows the truss layouts, shows the rise of the upper vertical member, the left is the run. So the top edge 6 feet 8.5 inches, peak cut vertical brace 3 foot 4 inches. The joist is 2 by 4 joist, 2 by 4 rafter, 5/8 of an inch from the center, 11, and then that makes some of the center beam 5/8 of an inch from the 11 in the center of the 11 and 4 foot inches. Or assembling a truss that has been cut board, assembly must be cased with the timber connected with the different members of the truss by joint, but then assemble the truss, split with the rings and plate with the bolts, and plate with the holes and fasten in place, wash with the head with the knot on each end of each of the bolts, straight, sound timber the trusses, figure 323. Or it shows the split ring fastening in the groove cut of the member to span, the split rings and 1.5 inch of the member boards, the split rings. Alright, 3/8 purlins. Purlins, you view the roof connection structure of the corrugated the sheet metal with the U with the support of the sheet of the roof with the framed with the trusses, small roof short purlins inserted between the rafters, nailed with the rafters. Large buildings have heavy trusted U with the purlins, continue with no members for the rest of the trusses. Support sheeting in small buildings such as barracks, mess halls, small warehouses, 2x4s, U with the purlins within narrow side, see figure 324, 318. 318, you have your column girt, purlin, roof beam, gab angle, or header and door jamb. Bracing you the stiffen the frame of the construction made with the ridge of the bracing, maybe you with the rest of the wind, storm, wind, trains. Good bracing corners, square and plumb of the bracing prevents the warping, sagging, the shifting of the could otherwise destroy the frame and the cause of crack plaster, badly fitting the doors or windows. Small roofs cover the narrow buildings in which the rafters are short. There is no need the interior support the bracing and the long span of the roof. The wood sag in the middle and would not strengthen in some way. The support the long rafter brace for the other type of support must be installed. The three methods commonly used for the brace frame structure: let in and cut in, diagonal sheeting and bracing. Alright, you're letting brace instead of the edge of the stud of the flesh with the surface of the studs are always cut and left of the race of the blades with the never cut. They use 1x4s, 1x6 to see the diagonal top of the sole plate, and then between the top of the sole plates from framing studs. Cut and braces toenail between the stud of the usually 2x4 cuts at the angle permitting the toenail to insert the diagonal progression between the stud and running it up and down from the corner post to the sill plate. Diagonal sheeting bracing the strongest type of the bracing of the diagonal sheeting each board brace of the wall with the plywood sheeting of the 5/8 inch thick or more. Other methods of bracing may be omitted. 310 roof term. The framing roof pack carpenters must be familiar with the commonly used roofing term. The following are most common. These terms: basic triangle. The basic triangle, the most elementary tools used in roof framing. Figure 325. Use the framing roof of the basic roof triangle. The form of the horizontal line of the run and rise with the altitude and the length of the rafter of the hypotenuse. Any part of the triangle that computed in other two parts of the dome. Achieve the following equation: the square hypotenuse right triangle is equal to the sum of the square of the two sides. And the roof terms. Roof rafter length is 2 squared times equals run squared times plus rise squared. Okay. So the building line, the hypotenuse, the rafter length of the base of the run, and the span and the plumb and the ridge. The bird's mouth is cut out near the bottom of the rafter of the first over the top of the plate with the cut that fits the top of the plate called the seat. The cut over the side of the plate is called the heel. Okay, the bird's mouth is fit in between the rafter, the seat, and the rafter sits on the seat with the plumb cut heel to the seat and heel, and the plumb and the tail cut. You cut off the roof rise over the run or the pitch over the roof. This shows that the roof of the pitch 8 to 12 line length of the total run, total rise in the variable unit raised unit of the span. The span of the roof, the shortest distance between two opposite rafters. See the line length of the roof framing line length for the hypotenuse triangle whose base is the run and whose altitude is the total rise. Horizontal line is one of the level building foundation original. Overhanging of the part of the rafter that extend with the vast of the outside edge of the walls of the building. The way when laying off the rafter, the portion of the additional length of the rafter is figured separately. Overhanging is often referred to as a tailpiece. Total rise, the vertical distance of the wall plate with the top of the ridge of the run. With the run always refers to the level of the distance. Rafter covers normally 1/2 span. Unit of the run, unit measurement. The unit measurement 1 foot at the 12 inches. And the same with the roof and any other part of the building. Using common unit measurement, the frame of the square is used for the layout of the larger roofs. Pitch. The pitch signifies the amount of the roof slant and the ratio of rise within the inch of the run and the inches using method 4x6 8-inch root rise per foot. Runs per give the 4x12, 6x12, 8x12. The two methods in pitch. Method 1 method indicates the ratio of the rise of the span of the roof stated in fraction 3/4 inch, 5/8 of an inch, 1 or 5 3/4, 5/8, 1/2, 5/12. The unit span rises must be same in the inches and feet, and the fraction is reduced the lowest common fraction is reduce the lowest common denominator to obtain the unit rise. Multiply the pitch 24. For example, the pitch is given in 1/3. Multiply 1/3 by 24. 1/3 by 24 is 8. Therefore, by unit rising 8 inches per foot at 8 by 12 pitch. The pitch is given in 5.5. 5/12 to 5 inch. 5/12 by 24. 5/12 by 24 is 10. Therefore, the unit rises 10 foot per feet. Alright, method 2, the pitching stay with the ratio of the rise an inch of the 1 foot for the run with the 12 inch of the U. The method 4 6/8 inch rise per foot. The run was given them 4x12, 6x12, 8x12. The roof of the 1/2 inch can be set to have 12x12 pitch. Remember that 1/2 times 24 is 12. The rise of the rafter of the vertical plumb distance with the rafter extend upward from the plate. The plumb line, the line is formed with the cord with the plumb bottom is hung with C figure 328. 328 show the roof of the plumb, show the parallel plumb line, level the line, the rise of the inches of the unit of the run, and your framing square with it showing the rise of the 12-inch runs in pitch. The plate of the wall framing, remember the rest on the top of the wall, stud C, figure 3.8, page 3.4. Ridge. The ridge is the highest horizontal roof member of the side of the rafter together with the upper end of the figure 3A. Rafter table on frame of the square. The frame of the square may have one or two types of the rafter, the table and tables over the blade. One type to give them move with both line length with any with the pitch root rafter per foot and the run of the line length. Any with the hip valley rafter per run different length with the jack rafter speed with 16 and 24 inches. The L shown in the table. The jack and the hip valley rafter needs a side cut. The cut is given in the table. The other type of the rafter table given the actual length of the rafter given the span. Line length of the rafter table is usually figure 329 usually determine the length of the column of the valley hip of the jack rafter, the angles of which that may be cut in the ridge of the plant and plate with the table. The carpenter must know each of the figure representation. The figure 329 line length of the rafter table. The row figures in the first line represent the length of the column rafters per foot with the run. Look at the left hand of the figure 329 from the side with the left hand of the hand and the end of the blade indicates each set of figures under each of the division make mark the representative length of the rafter per foot with the run. The rise corresponding number the inch of the over the number that, for example, the 16 inch of the mark appear with the number 20 inches, the number that equals the length of the rafter, which of the run of the 12 inches, the rise of 16 inches of the under the 13 inch mark appear with the number of 17.69 inches, which refers to the length of the 12 inch run and the 13 inch rise. No other 5 lines figures in the table that are seldom used for the 3 operation. The actual length of the end of the table, figure 330 figures to represent with the run and the rise and the pitch of the roof. The figures show the rafter, the run of 12 inches of 12 and rise of 4 with a 1/6 pitch at the 12 run with a 16 inch rise is equal to 1/4 inch of the 12 inch run, 8 inch rise, and 1/3 pitch. Figure 330 shows the pitch on the square rafter table. Use the rafter determined the table to determine the length of the rafter with 1/16 with inch rise with the 1/6 with the rise width of the building, the run with the 12 feet with the width with the 1/6 with the table to follow the same line with the figures right until the direct beneath the figure 12. Numbers that appear beneath the figure 12, 7, 10, which show the rafter length requires to represent with the 12, 7, 10 means 12 feet, 7 inches, 10 and a half, 10 by 12, 10/12 of an inch. Therefore, the length of the required is 12 foot 7 and 10.5 inches long. You put the rafter table. The method is assume the roof is within 1/2 pitch of the rafter, 1/2 of the width of the building. The run of the 12 foot the figure 330 with the final pitch 1/2 pitch of the table. To follow the same line figure to the right until the directly beneath the figure 12. The number that appears beneath the figure 16, 11, 6, which represents 16 foot, 11 and 6.5 and 6.12 of an inch. The length of the rafter required is 16 foot, 11 and 6/12 of an inch long. When running inch of the rafter table and inch of it instead of the feet with an inch of the if the pitch is 1/2 the run of the 12 inch form the rafter length of 12 inch foot with the rafter length of 4 inch run, 4 run of the 12 foot and then 1/2 pitch length with the 16 feet 11 foot 6 and 12 inches the 12th of an inch run 12 feet with a 1/2 pitch of length with 5, 7 and 11 and cave the 5 inch of the 7 12th and 11 and 11 12th of the or 1/2 inch, which is nearly 1/2 inch. Add the 1/2 inch to the 7 inch to 7 make it 8 by making the total 5 and 8 and 8 12th of an inch and the total length of 16 and 6 11 foot 6 and 12 inches plus 5 foot and 8 and 12 that equals 7 14 foot 5 and a half 5 and 12 inches 12th of an inches. If the running of the building is over 23 feet of the table to follow, the use of the run form 12 feet, 1/4 of an inch frame with the square building is 24 inch long. The final length of 23 foot, find the length of the 4 foot, add the 2. The run of 23 foot with the width with a pitch of 1/4 of its 25 feet, 25 feet, 8 and 5/12 of an inch. For 4 feet, run of the 4 feet, 5/8 and 12 of an inch. The total run of 27 foot and 27 feet is 30 feet and 2.5 inches. Alright, 6 lengths are given in the rafter table and our line length. The overhang must be added when the roof of the overhang. The rafter usually cuts the square at the same time. The roof does not have to overhang. The rafter is cut plumb, but no notch cut in the rafter seat. The level cut made with the rafter length along the extent of the across the plate with the wall sheeting of the type of the rafter allowed with the vertical and very little protection of side walls. Or a template using rafter framing without the use of the ridge boards may be done rapidly using the truss assembly template. The template is laid out in one T form, the pattern conforming the exact exterior dimension of the truss layout. The template is shown in figure 331. Alright, 331 show the template. The template blocks the template content, completed template, scab template, and rafter, vertical brace, peak out, cut, top edge, rise, run, layout, block nail, hold together, built up jig block. Or your layout on the template shown in figure 331 is filed with a measurement of the mark with a straight line with the surface, the selected surface with the exact length of the joist with the form of the truss core with the baseline with the form from the center of the baseline right angle of the layout with the center line of the sheave and the form of the leg of the right triangle with the base with the half length of the baseline A with the hypotenuse of the B with the length of the rafters measured and indicated in figure 331. Nail 2x2, 2x4 by 8-inch blocks with the flush of the end of the baseline with the male and center of the C as shown in figure 331, marking the center with the center jig blocks. To be assembly with the template as shown in figure 331 as follows. Start the assembly setting of the rafter jig plate when the plate with the hilt fitted over the jig block at the end at one end of the baseline peak of the flush from the center line with the jig peak of the jig block, but not holding the block outside of the rafter outside on the point G. Point D is shown in figure 331. Lay one of the 2x4 joists with the cords in place across the base blocks. Lay 2x4 rafters in the place over the joist. 4 center one end of the 1x6 hangers over the rafter peak. Center of the rafters against the peak block. Nail the other rafters a hanger using by 6 to 8 penny nails. Line up the one end of the cord nail through the rafter 16 penny nails. Line up the other end of the cord nail is above, then 10 center above the bottom of the hanger over the top of the cord nail with the 8 penny nails. Roof openings. Many roof openings that those interpreted them in the running of the rafters of the roof frame. And some of the others may be ventilation chimney, trapdoors, skylight, dormer, windows, roof openings, frame, headers, trimmer, double headers used at the right angle of the rafters, or set in headers, same way as jointed floor opening construction, trimmers, or double rafter construction, roofing openings, steps may be added if needed. The figure 332 shows the roof opening structure. A trimmer, rafter, double header trimmer. Part C, roof covering material. Many different kinds of roof and the covering materials available in the tile, built-up roofings, asphalt, shingles, mineral fiber, asbestos, cement, shingles, wood, shingles, carpenters, main workly, and the last 3. Roofing sheathing. Plywood, one by material satisfactory sheathing. Roof plywood is more economical than one by material and can be easily installed and rapidly. The thickness required 3/8 inch, half-inch, 5/8 inch, 3/4 inch, depending on the rafter spacing pitch of the load of the roof. When installing the sheathing, will be sure the joists are placed over the rafter. The roof sheathing should be arranged so that the joists can be completely over roof or staggered. Roof covering term. The terms of this should be understood before proceeding to the part square. The roofing is estimated with the solid die square. The square, the number of the shingles required to cover the 100 square feet of the roof's surface. Coverage. The shingles overlap depending on the manner in which they laid on 1 or 2 of the 3 thickness will cover the roof. At one place of the roof is determined the single cover, the double coverage, or and so on. Shingle butt. The shingle butt is lower exposed to the edge of the shingle. Exposure. The exposed distance from the butt of one shingle to the butt of the other shingle above it. The portion of the shingle is exposed with the weather. Underlayment. The underlayment is application of saturated felt that is placed over the roof surface of the project. The roof serving sheeting from the shingles applied to the top lap. The width of the shingles is mined for the exposure. Alright, it's 316. Shingle roof. Asphalt shingle roof. Begin with the application of the drip edge followed by the underlayment. The felt with the eave of the flat strip. The first full shingle inverted with the nail placed in the asphalt roof comes in rolled, usually 3 feet wide, calling the rolled roof. The rolled strip, usually 15 inches wide, 3 feet long. Individual shingle, the most commonly used with this flat strip, they're often called strip shingles. Size of the square butt strip shingle is about 13 by 36 inches, 12 inches by 36 inches. The shingle should be laid 5 inches into the weather, meaning 7 inches the edge for the course should be overlapped by the next higher course. The various type of the shingles, figure 333, show this butt shingles in 3 tabs. Alright, 333 show the butt shingle 12 inches tab and the tab notch, the 5 inch to the weather and 7 inch lap, 36 inch length. Shingle insulation. First step of the covering of the roof of the erector scaffold to heat with the height of the width of the height that will bring the eave of the waist of the height of the main standing with the scaffold. Before any of the roofing is applied, the roof sheeting must be swept clean, carefully inspected for the irregularity, cracks, holes, or other defects. No roofing should be applied unless the sheeting Boards are absolutely dry. Underlay roofing felt is first applied sheeting. Roof felting is usually comes in 3 foot wide rolls. Should be laid in 2-inch top lap and 4-inch side lap. The bill bundles and shingles should be distributed along the scaffold before working. There are 27 strips of bundle of 1x3 asphalt strip shingle. These are bundles of will cover 100 square feet. Figure 334 shows the laying of the asphalt shingles start 4-inch lap, 5-inch to the weather, roofing felt underlay starting course of the inverted shingles. Install the first course shingle inverted with the arrangement provided with the roof edge without notch. Nail inverted shingle in place for 3/4 over the drip of the eave, then the gables edge of the roof. 335 shows applying the drip edge. Drip edge applied over the felt along the rake, the roof sheeting, the drip edge, and the inverted shingle. Snap chalk lines underlayment felt to indicate the location of each of the course on see figure 334, 336. 336 there was the snapping of the chalk line, 4-inch lap, the guideline of the chalk line. Begin with the first course of the shingle with the whole strip of the one end of the roof of figure 337. The cut the second course. There's a lap of course with a half tab point. Up use 4 to 6 inches in shingle. Use the nails 1/4 inch long on the new roofs. Use one nail 1 inch from the edge of the shingle. Place one on top of one and 2 nails on the tab slides depending on the requirements shown in figure. Shown in the figure 337 is laying of the shingles. Show the 4-inch end of the lap, the top, the 2-inch top lap, underlayment, the roof sheeting, drip edge of the causing course of shingles inverted. Starting the first course of the full strip, the second course of the full strip minus 1/2, and the drip edge along the rake. The passes each nail through the 2 thickness shingles, conceal the blind nail by the next course of the shingles. Finish the ridge of the roof overlapping the shingles to prevent the roof from leaking. Make 3 short through 12x12 shingles from the 12x12 36-inch shingles from the edge of the ridge of the roof. They lay short shingles, exposure 5 inches to the weather. And that was lesson 3 practice exercise answers, appendix, and recommended listings of FM 5426 Carpentry, October 3rd, 1995. That completes the 3rd tape of Carpentry and Subcourse Entry AN 5156 Edition B Carpentry 2 AIPD course.